Okay, let's dive deep. We've got some fascinating material in front of us today. This audio overview exploring the idea of seeing the future, developing vision as a teacher.
Yeah, and our mission really is to sort of cut through the noise, pull out the core insights, and give you a kind of fast track to understanding why vision isn't just, a nice to have for educators.
Right, but actually a crucial tool.
Exactly. A really crucial tool.
So we're going to unpack what teacher vision actually is, why it has such power, how you can actively build it, and also what it means to scale that vision, maybe beyond yourself.
And this framework, it's research-based, which is helpful. It lets us see the practical side of what can sometimes feel like a pretty abstract concept.
Definitely. So let's jump right in. Understanding what this vision is, where do we start?
Well, at its heart, when we talk about a teacher's vision, it's fundamentally a personal thing. It's like a mental picture of what you want to accomplish or achieve.
A mental picture.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, think of it like your internal compass. It guides your day-to-day practice, but also shapes your kind of bigger hopes for your work, your students.
And it's not just a feeling, though, is it? This material connects it to more academic ideas like Peter Senge's work on personal mastery.
Spot on. For a teacher, that vision includes quite concrete things like images of ideal classroom practice, alongside those, broader aspirations for the students and maybe even the community they serve.
Hmm.
And what's really useful, I think, is how the material breaks vision down into dimensions. It draws on research by Hammerness here.
Dimensions, like what?
3 key ones. First, your focus. So what are your interests really centered on in your teaching? What matters most to you?
Okay, focus. What else?
Second is range. How wide are you aiming? Is your vision mostly about your own classroom, or does it extend to the whole school, the district, maybe even, the profession?
Right, the scope of impact. And the third.
The third is distance, and this one's quite interesting.
Distance. Tell me more.
It's basically the gap, the space between where your practice is right now and that ideal future you're envisioning.
Ah, okay. And that sounds like it could be daunting.
You'd think so, maybe. But the insight here is that this gap isn't framed as like a problem or a source of frustration. It's actually presented as a key motivator for growth.
Huh. So seeing how far you want to go actually energizes you.
Exactly. It gives you that pull forward, that reason to learn and adapt and develop. It clarifies the target.
That makes a lot of sense. It reframes the challenge. And, speaking of clarifying things, the material also tackles the difference between vision, mission, and goals. That trio can get a bit fuzzy sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. It's easy to use them interchangeably, but distinguishing them is pretty vital for actually doing something with your vision.
So how does it break them down?
Think of it like planning a journey. Your vision is the ultimate destination, the big picture, the fundamental why behind it all.
Okay, the why.
Your mission is then how you'll get there. It's the overall approach, the strategic path you intend to take.
The how. Got it.
And then your goals are the specific milestones along that path. They're the concrete, often measurable steps you take to make progress on your mission towards your vision.
So vision is the dream, mission is the strategy, goals are the steps. Okay. Understanding that hierarchy really does seem crucial for making this whole vision thing feel less abstract and more, actionable.
Precisely. It moves it out of just pure aspiration and into something like a structured pursuit. You know where you're going, roughly how you'll travel, and what the next steps look like.
Okay, so we have a clearer picture of what vision is and its components. Now, let's get to the really exciting part, the power and impact. Why does developing this clear vision actually matter so much for a teacher?
Right, this is where it gets really compelling, I think. The material positions vision as a really potent psychological driver. It connects directly to what motivates us deeply, drawing on ideas like self-determination theory.
Self-determination theory. Remind me.
It's the idea that we all have these innate psychological needs. The need for autonomy, feeling like you have control and choice in your work. The need for competence, feeling effective, capable, good at what you do. And the need for relatedness, feeling connected to others, part of something meaningful.
Okay, autonomy, competence, relatedness. So how does vision tie into those?
Well, when your daily actions, your teaching practice, are aligned with your personal vision, that's why we talked about it, directly feeds those needs. You feel more autonomous because you're acting on your values. You feel more competent as you work toward your ideal. You feel more relatedness because your work has personal meaning and connection.
Ah, I see. So it fuels that deep, intrinsic motivation, the kind that comes from within, not just external pressures.
Exactly. That's the core idea. You're not just, you know, checking boxes or following mandates. You're actively working towards something that resonates with you personally. And critically, this isn't just like a nice psychological theory.
Right, there's actual evidence. The material mentions research, including John Hattie's work.
Yes, Hattie's extensive meta-analyses are referenced. They show that concepts really rooted in or strongly related to teacher vision have significant, measurable positive effects on student outcomes.
Significant effects, like what specifically?
Well, it highlights two particularly powerful examples.
Oh.
One is collective teacher efficacy.
Which is?
That's the shared belief among the staff in a school that they, as a group, can positively impact student learning. It's a collective confidence.
Okay, a shared belief in their power. And the other?
Teacher clarity. This is about the teacher being really clear to students about what they're learning, why it's important, and what success looks like.
And both of those, that collective belief and that clarity in instruction, they link back to vision.
Absolutely. And the research shows they have really strong positive correlations with student achievement. It makes intuitive sense, doesn't it?
It does. A teacher driven by a clear vision is likely to be clearer in their teaching and more likely to contribute to that collective sense of, we can do this.
Precisely. And the impact isn't just on students, which is crucial to note. The material strongly emphasizes how a robust personal vision significantly boosts teacher well-being.
How so?
Teachers who feel their work aligns with their core vision tend to report much higher job satisfaction. They feel more fulfilled, more excited about their work. It can be a real antidote to burnout and helps with retention too.
So it's good for students, good for the teacher's own motivation and longevity in the profession. It sort of transforms the job from just tasks into something more like a calling, yeah.
That's a good way to put it. And the material briefly connects this to other important concepts too, like Michael Fullan's idea of moral purpose and leadership, and Hargreaves and Fink's work on sustainable leadership.
Showing how personal vision fits into these bigger pictures of making education meaningful and lasting.
Exactly. They all point towards the need for that clear, enduring sense of purpose and direction.
Okay, so vision is powerful, it's personal, it impacts students, teacher well-being, the whole package. The next logical question then is, how do you actually build this? How do you cultivate your vision? It can't just appear, right?
Definitely not.
No.
And the material stresses that this isn't a one-time thing. You don't just like sit down, write a vision statement, and you're done. It's framed as an ongoing journey.
An ongoing process. What does that involve?
It involves actively looking ahead, using foresight, maybe considering educational trends, thinking about different future scenarios for your students in your school, a bit of vision casting maybe.
Looking ahead. And I really like the analogy they used here, the butterfly effect in the classroom.
Ah, yes, that's a powerful one.
Explain that a bit.
It's the idea that those seemingly small, everyday actions you take as a teacher, the way you phrase a question, the feedback you give, the relationship you build when they are intentionally guided by your larger vision, they can accumulate and have these surprisingly significant, positive long-term impacts on your students.
So the little things done with purpose add up to big things.
Exactly. It validates the importance of the daily grind when it's connected to that bigger picture. And the engine driving this whole cultivation process, according to the material, is reflective practice.
Reflection. Always comes back to reflection, doesn't it? How does it specifically help shape vision here? It mentions Kolb's cycle.
Yes. Kolb's experiential learning cycle is presented as a key framework. It's this continuous loop. You start with a concrete experience, something happens in your classroom, an interaction, a lesson outcome.
Okay, the actual event.
Then you step back for reflective observation. You think about what happened, why it happened, what you noticed.
And mulling it over.
Right. Then comes abstract conceptualization. This is where you try to make sense of it, connect it to theories or your existing beliefs, maybe form new ideas or refine your understanding of your vision based on that reflection.
Connecting the dots.
And finally, active experimentation. You take those new insights or refined ideas and you try them out in your practice. You experiment.
And then that new experiment becomes a new concrete experience and the cycle starts again.
Precisely. It's iterative. Cycling through that process constantly helps you refine your understanding, align your actions more closely with your vision, and essentially bring that vision to life and keep it evolving.
That makes sense. It's a dynamic process. So what are some, practical things teachers can actually do to engage in this? The material listed some strategies.
Yeah, it gets quite practical. Things like regular journaling, just capturing thoughts, insights, reflections on practice. Actually, writing a narrative vision statement can be powerful, telling the story of the future you want to create.
a narrative, like a story.
Yeah, describing that ideal classroom or impact. The material even mentions, interestingly, that AI tools might potentially help draft something based on your keywords or initial thoughts, which is a modern twist.
Interesting. What else?
Visualization exercises mentally picturing that desired future in detail and using structured frameworks to make the vision actionable. It mentions Gemini's Peers goals.
Peers goals, PERS. What's that stand for?
It's an acronym designed for setting goals that are really connected to vision. Goals should be powerful, easy, meaning accessible, not necessarily effortless, emotionally compelling, relevant to the teacher and students, and seen, meaning you can actually picture achieving it.
Powerful, easy, emotionally compelling, relevant, seen. Okay. That sounds like a useful filter for turning big vision ideas into concrete, motivating goals.
Yeah, it helps bridge that gap between the dream and the daily reality.
Yeah.
Ensuring your goals aren't just tasks, but are actually pulling you towards your vision.
These are great strategies, but let's be real, it can't all be smooth sailing. What about the challenges? What hurdles might teachers face when trying to cultivate and maybe later scale their vision?
Oh, the material definitely acknowledges the challenge. They're real.
Ah.
Sometimes the vision itself can just feel too big, too abstract, maybe overwhelming.
Yeah, where do you even start?
Exactly. There's also the risk of burnout, especially if that distance we talked about, the gap between reality and the ideal, feels impossibly large or stays large for too long.
That makes sense.
And a really big one is dealing with imposed visions, initiatives or goals handed down from administration or the district that don't align with your own authentic vision. That can be really demotivating.
That distinction seems absolutely key. The difference between an authentic, genuinely teacher-owned vision versus one that feels imposed or disconnected from your why.
Totally. The material really emphasizes that authentic visions developed by teachers themselves, ideally in supportive contexts, are much more resilient and motivating. That authenticity is crucial for overcoming the hurdles.
And support must be huge, too. You can't do this in a vacuum.
No way. Which leads to the next critical step discussed. Moving from your individual vision, the me, to fostering a shared vision within your school or team, the we.
Scaling it. From personal to collective. Senge talks about shared vision, too, right?
Yes, back to Senge. He emphasizes that a genuinely shared vision is an incredibly powerful force in any organization, including schools. It creates alignment, energy, and collective commitment.
So how do you actually build that? Getting a whole group of people aligned on a vision sounds challenging.
It is. But the material suggests strategies like collaborative development. Not just one person writing it, but building it together through dialogue. Clear communication is vital, constantly talking about the vision, what it means in practice, and grounding it in moral purpose, connecting it to those shared fundamental values about what's best for students.
Finding that common ground.
Exactly. It's about weaving together individual aspirations into a collective tapestry that everyone feels some ownership of.
And leadership must play a massive role here, right? Creating the conditions for this.
Absolutely critical. Leaders need to foster a culture where vision, both individual and shared, is valued and supported. That might involve things like distributed leadership, where vision isn't just top-down, and strategic planning processes that actively engage teachers in shaping the school's direction.
So it's about creating an environment where possibility and purpose can really thrive.
You got it.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, it seems incredibly clear that developing your vision as a teacher isn't just some optional add-on. It's a profoundly personal journey, yes, but one with huge implications for your practice, for your students, and honestly, for your own sense of purpose and well-being in the profession. It really is your visionary journey.
It truly is. And the material kind of summarizes this ongoing journey with a cyclical framework.
Yeah.
It starts with really understanding yourself and your context, your students, your school. Then you articulate and keep refining your vision.
Right, it's not static.
No. Then you actively engage in learning and that constant reflection we talked about. You collaborate with colleagues, ideally building toward that shared vision. You act strategically, using things like peers goals. And crucially, you adapt as things inevitably change.
It even mentioned using specific reflection questions, maybe even AI-generated ones these days, to keep prompting that deep thinking about your long-term impact, your growth, how you can innovate.
Yeah, tools to keep that vision alive, relevant, and constantly pushing you forward, gently or otherwise.
This whole exploration makes such a compelling case. Developing vision isn't just about passively seeing some potential future classroom. It's about actively shaping it. for your students, for yourself, and maybe even for the wider field of education.
Mm. It's really an invitation, isn't it? An invitation to embrace this continuous cycle of reflection, learning, action, and collaboration, all fueled by your deepest hopes for what education can achieve.
Well said. So maybe here's a final thought for everyone listening to mull over, building on everything we've discussed. In a world where education is constantly changing, facing new challenges and opportunities, how does that act of consistently revisiting and adapting your vision, both your own personal one and the shared one with your colleagues, how does that ensure it remains a truly vibrant, powerful engine for positive change, rather than just becoming, a static ideal that gets left behind on a shelf?
That's the question, isn't it? How to keep it alive and dynamic.